Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Jawad. I am currently studying at SAST in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. Today my topic is to explain the chapter 5 Introduction to Macroeconomics, and the very specific topic I will explain will be price stability and inflation, basically inflation rate. So the very first topic of the video is inflation rate. So what is inflation rate in short? In short, it means the rate of change in prices over a given period of time. And this given period of time is basically 1 year or sometimes more than 1 year. But if you want to know about the inflation rate in a broader aspect, it will be that the percentage change in the average level of a basket of goods and services over a specific period, and it's of course usually a year. Okay, now let's try to understand the inflation rate with a quick example. Suppose you have 100 taka in your pocket and you went to a vendor to buy some chocolates. So with 100 taka you get, suppose you get 10 chocolates in 2024, but due to some reason, guess that the price of cocoa, the source of chocolate, is increased for some reason. So in 2025 with the same amount of taka you will get, suppose 5 chocolate in 2025. So you can see a rise of price. So basically this is called the inflation. Okay, now a basic question arises that how can we calculate the inflation rate? So the formula to determine inflation rate is this. So what does it say? It says the inflation rate equals to the current CPI minus the previous year CPI divided by the previous year's CPI. So what is CPI? CPI is Consumer Price Index. So why we are using Consumer Price Index to determine the inflation rate? The reason is it tracks the changing of prices of a fixed basket of goods, and it provides a practical measure of how much the cost of living is changing. Mainly this is the reason of why we are using CPI as a tool to determine inflation rate. And we have to know that mudrasfiti and mulusfiti is different. Mudrasfiti means increase of currency like BDT or USD, and mulusfiti means the increase in price of something. Okay, our next topic is price stability and inflation. So in the unstable price in the curve we can see there is no stability, but when we use tools like monetary policy or something, we can see a regular shape in the curve. It's not irregular. So basically central bank uses monetary policy to control the money flow, and thus the prices in the economy become stable. That's why here is written the central bank manipulates money for price stability. In the next topic we can see a graph between interest and investment. So what does this graph depicts? So if the interest rate increases, actually the borrowing of money decreases, and as a result also the investment also decreases. So we can see a inverse relation between interest and investment. And there is a important information that I forgot to tell, that when we calculate the inflation rate we have to always use the weighted average. We cannot use the normal average. In normal average we don't give priorities to the numbers, but in weighted averages we give priority to some numbers, different numbers. Okay, now let's talk about the important topic, which is types of inflation. So we can see there are three type of inflation, which is low inflation, creeping or galloping inflation, and hyperinflation. So what is low inflation? Low inflation is when in the economy we can see the inflation rate is between 0 to 9%, meaning in single digits. And what is creeping or galloping inflation? Creeping or galloping inflation is basically the double digit inflation It basically ranges around 10 to 30%, but it can go above. So, and what is hyperinflation? Hyperinflation means it's more than double digit, like 100%, 200%, 1000%, but it's not actually possible in today's economy. It's yeah, it's kind of imaginary. And in the graph we can see, as inflation is multiple digits, it graph is more, it graphs slope is more, and in the inflation the slope is less as the percentage is lower. Okay, now let's understand the impact of inflation in the economy with a real life incident. So, in the early 2000s, in Zimbabwe experienced one of the worst cases of hyperinflation in history. And as we know, hyperinflation means the inflation rate was more than the two double digits. I mean, like a rather than or something a constant. So in 2008 in Zimbabwe, the prices were doubling almost every day. A loaf of bread that cost a few Zimbabwean dollars in the morning could cost around thousands in the evening. At one point, the government even literally printed $100 trillion banknote, and till it was not enough to buy basic items like milk, sugar, tea bag, etc., etc. And people had to carry bags of cash just to purchase some foods. So we can see how negatively inflation impact on economy. Another recent example was in Ghana, where the inflation rate crossed more than 50%, and everyday items like oil, cooking oil, sugar, or etc., etc., were increasing day by day, and it was very hard for ordinary people to buy these things. Even though the monthly salaries were not increasing, it was constant, but the inflation rate was increasing. So this example shows how inflation is not just an economic number, it has real impact on daily life too. No, and it makes food, transport, and healthcare more costly, reducing people's quality of life. In conclusion, inflation is something that directly affects people's pockets, people's funds, and the cases in Zimbabwe and Ghana remind us how serious it can be when it goes out of control. Okay, now we are in the last topic of the video, is measurement of the inflation. So for measurement of the inflation, we already know the formula of how. Now we have to know how to use it. So here you can see there are item weight CPI of 2024 and CPI of 2025 is given. So this is weighted average, actually not normal average. There is given 0.6, 0.2, blah blah blah, and we have to know that the total summation of this product have to be must to 1 or in percentage. If these are given in percentages, it have to be 100%. You have to note this. And we can see there are CPIs given of 2024 and 2025. So at first we have to determine the overall CPI of the certain year. So CPI of 2024, you have just basically have to multiply the weight with the CPI of the food, medicine, housing. So we can see 0.6 into 340. We multiply these two, and the answer becomes almost 300. So same goes for the CPI of the previous year, sorry, the current year of 2025. We just multiply the weighted average and the CPI of the year, a current year, 0.6 into 350 plus 0.20, and it goes on, and it becomes 307.3. So what will be the inflation rate? The inflation rate of the current year will be CPI of current year minus CPI of the previous year divided by the CPI of the previous year. This is basically how we calculate changes in anything, in any topic, into 100. So if we calculate this, it comes 2.67%. So it means that in 2025 the inflation rate was about 2.67%. So if we calculated if we wanted to calculate the inflation rate for 2024, we have to of course know the weighted average and the overall information of the previous year, I mean 2023. So yeah, so you have to know the data of the current year and the previous year to determine the inflation rate. And it concludes my YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing.